Very excited to be here today with Dorien Morin-van, the owner of Morin Media. Thanks for being with us today, Dorien. You've had such a cool journey in social media strategy and consulting. What sparked your passion to start Morin Media?
Ooh, it wasn't necessarily a passion initially, but I found my passion pretty quickly. I actually had been a stay-at-home mom for over 12 years, and my youngest child started kindergarten. And as I walked out of that school where all the other mothers were crying, I literally came out of the front door with a skip and a hop and go, what's next for me? You know, I have 7 hours a day. What am I going to do with it? At that point, I had two in middle school, two in elementary school. And so that was right around the time 2010 that social media was up and coming. And there was nobody locally where I was living that was providing any kind of social media services at all. So I didn't know what I didn't know. And I just put on my social media hat. I took an online course. I put a title on LinkedIn, which I had LinkedIn for a while, and started learning. And then as soon as I learned something, I would go into the community and teach it, I love teaching. I love, I love hanging with kids and teaching things. So I would go rent a room at the local college and teach people about Twitter or Facebook groups, or I just started teaching people. And then that's how I got clients.
Great, great. Well, today I think we really want to dive into for businesses that are looking to outsource their social media, looking to work with agencies such as yourself on a platform like Clutch. I think a big consideration is how to ensure that when bringing in an outside partner, that the agency really can nail the brand's tone and voice and effectively manage their social media, because it is so foundational in how companies communicate. So in your experience helping companies build their social presence, what are some of the challenges or bumps in the road you've seen for outsourcing social media and keeping that brand voice?
Yeah, so when we talk about brand voice, the hardest part is convincing stakeholders and the C-suite to let you do your thing. As a outside marketer, you have ideas, you come in with fresh eyes, and yet they want to do what everybody else does. I cannot tell you how many times the roadblocks I encounter are them saying, well, our competitors are doing this, so can you replicate that for us? And I'm like, no, we don't want to do what they do. We want to know what they do, but we don't want to do what they do, because it's going to take a lot of money and effort to do what they do and do it just marginally better. We want to do it different. And that mindset's really hard. So getting to the voice takes a lot of time. I always tell my clients 6 to 9 months. Yeah, I might get it a lot earlier, but give me some time and give me permission to do a lot of different things and to test things. And as an organic specialist, I do all of that testing in the organic socials. So I also have to have permission from them. And this is another really big thing, to fail. And that's silly when you start working with somebody, but I have to talk to them and say, look, trust me. There's going to be posts that aren't going to do anything. I'm going to want to, try formats and voices, and, we might need to test emojis, and all of that is part of the voice. And you have to let me test to see. But the biggest thing is that I can ensure them is that I'm going to look at data in the beginning every single day. So I'm going to look at that data every day. Then I'm going to look at it every couple of days. I'm going to give you a report every week. And every time I find something new, I'm going to adjust what I've been doing or what I was planning to do based on my findings. So that usually helps when I tell them those things. But the biggest roadblock is really them wanting to be like everybody else, yet want clients.
Sure.
That doesn't really work.
Absolutely. As a marketing leader, I have definitely been in those situations. And I think sometimes even as the person trying to get that jump started, they're having to make that internal case to their peers or their CEO or others in the organization to get that kind of liberty. And I love what you shared around test and learn, right? Like, yeah, you're not going to have the answer right away. So on that note, how would you coach clients to develop their brand voice and personality? I think there's a little chicken and an egg here of, do you need to have that already before you start to talk to social media agencies, or is that something you offer as you're onboarding them?
I definitely offer that as onboarding. So one of the things I started with is a 90-minute discovery meeting. So that, and I want the stakeholders in there. I want the CEO in there or the CMO or whoever I have access to at a regular basis. I want them in that meeting. And then I'm going to ask you about everything. And I always tell people, you don't get the questions ahead of time. This is a talking meeting. Just tell me everything you know about your business as I fire these questions at you. So that's the first piece, right? So I get all this information from them about their business, what their goals are, who they're trying to reach, who their avatar is, what they're selling, what their services are. I need to know all of that. And then I'm going to ask them if they have examples of conversations with their audience. And if it's a big company, we can do a text analysis. And this is something that I think is a great tool to have. There's tools out there, but a great thing to do for a business that has a dedicated customer service department that does email services, that maybe has somebody answering the phone, so you have recordings. So when you do a text analysis, what you want to look for is the things that your customers are already talking about and what they call you. And so you also have a voice in those places, right? How you respond to email, that's your voice right there. How you respond to customer service, what you're telling your customer reps, right? How to respond, how you respond to testimonials. So if you don't have that voice, or you think you don't have that voice, you probably already do. You just have never put it in that brand kit that you already have, because you probably have your logo, your font, your colors, but you don't have that voice because you never wrote it down. So that is one place where I can come in and grab that information. And if that's something that you can do internally, great, and then hand it to a strategist, right? That's even better. But you probably already have a voice. Now, if you ask a CEO what the voice is like, they usually would tell you, oh, we want some humor and we want this. But when you then present the content, they're like, no, that's too much, right? So again, you have to have permission to test things out. Another place that I think is really important is as an agile marketer. I got certified as an agile marketer right around the time that the pandemic hit. And I was really able to use a lot of the tools and a lot of the strategies that I learned from Agile in the Agile community into social media. And one of those things is to meet more frequently. Now, that's counterproductive to somebody who works for themselves, and sometimes you exchange dollars for hours, and you're like meeting more with a client. But what happens is we get so far out of scope if we don't meet. So when we're talking about voices and wanting to get the right voice for a company, I would say here's 5 examples. Pick the best 2, in a meeting. And then, I'll say like, okay, what did you like about this one? And we actually might have a working meeting where how would you say this? And I record them. So meeting more frequently with the team and with the people that are going to decide on that actual voice that works well is really important. I think that feedback loop, we need that, and we need to use that, especially when we're looking for that voice.
Well, and so are there any other tools or sources that you found helpful that businesses can bring to a social agency to help get that off to a good start?
Sure. This is where the AI comes in, right? So you have all these, and I'm going to preface it by, you shouldn't be putting any client's information in a public, AI tool, obviously, but you can ask them when you start working with them, do you have your own, chatbot that you use internally, internal communications? If they do, great. If not, that's something they might want to invest in, right? Get somebody to, code that for them and say, here is our bot. And then you feed it all those customer scripts, right? You feed it the emails, you feed it all those things, and then have the right prompts on, based on this information that I just fed you, how do you think, or what is the best way to speak to these potential current and past customers on social media? Would they appreciate humor? Would they appreciate a straightforward answer? Like, start talking to the bots once you've loaded that in, and then again, test those things, because the bot is doing the analyzing part, but you have to do the inferencing part. And you have to make sure that whatever the bot throws at you, that makes sense. So you're still going to have to use your human brain to go do that. But I think AI is going to be the best tool. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I spoke about this at an event, it would have been a very different answer. But now with AI, anybody can do this. You just have to make sure that you do that in the right way with the right tool, and that you have the buy-in from whoever you work with. But I think it is a fantastic way to really get that voice nailed down, especially if you have stuff written out already.
That's such a great use case for AI. And I think a lot of brands are, you see it in comments on LinkedIn and other channels of these kind of AI generated responses that you can still kind of tell. But I think that use case is really interesting because it's not using it to write the social post, right? It's using it to synthesize and draw out what is your tone of voice. Let's train it on all of the chat dialogue that you've had over months or maybe years in many cases to really nail how you're talking to your customers. I think that's a really awesome example. So you talked a little bit around, businesses having fear of losing control of their brand voice or maybe being too edgy. And so do you have any go-to tips for that in-house team and the outsource team to kind of set some boundaries or get aligned on, you said you need to have the freedom to test. So how can they work together collaboratively to make sure they're aligned at the start?
That's a really good question. I would say don't test it everywhere, right? So one place that you can test this that might not upset the C-suite is in the DMs, right? A lot of us have conversations with, potential clients and current clients in messaging, right? In either Instagram or in Facebook or on LinkedIn, people are messaging the page. So that's a place where you can test a little bit more. That's not in the public eye. I think that would be a great test case, especially if you get the internal team in there. You can have some of these messages or some of these things written out. You can even get your chatbot to change a couple things on the chatbot and see how people react, right? There's data there. If people stop talking to the chatbot, obviously the wrong voice. But if you do a little bit of humor and people go a lot further in the bot, right? They stay on longer and they're happier, then, those are places that you can test without upsetting everybody about changing a tone of voice. Right. The worst thing that can happen, I think, for me as a solopreneur, that I get a phone call from somebody in the C-suite that says, take down what you just posted on social, because even though we said you have carte blanche, we don't like that. That's not what we sound like. That would be terrible, right? If you do it in a chat bot, if you do it in the messaging, that's not going to happen. You're going to already test it. And then once you've tested it and know that your audience really does like it, then you have a case to say, hey, we did some testing behind the scenes. We now have this data that says, people stay on the chatbot 4 minutes longer on average. Why not use this kind of language outwardly on social as well? And we know that you're worried. So let's start on one platform and see how it does, right? So those are just kind of the baby steps that you can take people through.
I started my career in social media, and this was when really there was just kind of friend connections and companies were just starting to get online. And then for a while, I think the primary metric that a lot of businesses use were, what kind of traffic am I getting from social channels? I think increasingly we've seen these platforms are keeping people engaging on the platform. So getting clicks out is increasingly difficult. So as you've seen that evolution, are there specific KPIs or kind of qualitative measures that you recommend businesses focus on when you're working with them? And how do you kind of demonstrate success of different campaigns with the changing social landscape?
Those are some great questions. One of the ways I want to answer this is your KPIs are going to depend on your goals. And I am currently working with a startup whose goal was just to get awareness, right? They're a startup, they're a SaaS company, they just wanted awareness. But something really fun started to happen because he's like, just give me the numbers every week. I just want more followers. I don't have a big budget to give me the numbers every week. But what happened was he, as an owner, was doing the demos. And about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks in of our social media campaign launching, people came to his demos prepared. Instead of coming into a demo going, well, what is this tool? They go, oh, I saw this video, so I have a question about this one thing. And so I want this feature that you posted about on TikTok. And so he gave me the ROI by verbally in the meeting saying, Dorien, it's completely changed the business. This social media that you're doing, the information you're putting out there on socials is changing the way that we're doing our demos. It's making us close faster. It's getting us more business. So it's really going to depend on what your goals were. His goals were clear. He did not say, I want more followers. He said, I want some followers. He didn't say, I want sales. He said, I want people to be aware of who we are and that we are on the market as a competitor to these other competitors. And we did that. The other thing that we had done is we had done a competitor analysis, and he's like, I don't even want to look at them. I don't know what they're doing, but if you're telling me I need to be the face of the company, I will. And so our strategy was founder led, and that worked really, really well. So we're looking now at some of the metrics that we're looking at are not necessarily even on our pages socials. They're going on our community that he leads, on his Facebook, but more importantly on his LinkedIn, on his personal LinkedIn as a founder. That's where we're really looking, because we know that as a thought leader, he drives that conversation about the company, and then that results in more people coming for demos. So it's a case by case thing. But that, I think, is a beautiful way of looking at it. This example of some different things came out of it, and yeah, it will change. Once the budget increases, we're going to look at ads and running, Meta ads and LinkedIn ads. And then the KPIs are going to be a little different. But for now, this is what we had and this is what we could do. So I think it starts with goals, and then you have to look at a budget, what is realistic, the team, the resources. You could have all these KPIs and all these things that you want to achieve, but if somebody doesn't give you the team or the budget or the resources, you're just not going to get there. So to wrap it all up, growth. If there's any growth, if there's any movement from day to day, week to week, and when I start out, I do day to day, then I do week to week. If there's any growth week to week, I think then that's a way to measure success.
So we talked a little bit earlier around AI and how you're thinking about using that to synthesize brand voice. I think AI is increasingly being integrated into social. So where do you see the future of, outsourcing social media with the integration of AI in the future?
I think people are going to get smarter. Business owners are going to get smarter. So they're going to start asking questions of their team members. Like, I want to outsource social media to you, Dorien. Dorien, how do you use AI? That's not really the questions I'm getting yet, but I'm hoping by next year, those are the questions that I'm going to get, because I think that's how, as a freelancer, as somebody who, as a business owner, but as somebody who works with different teams, that's how I want to differentiate myself, right? How I use AI, that I'm careful, that I'm aware of cybersecurity issues, that I'm aware of your information and making sure that your content is safe. So I'm hoping that the awareness and that understanding is there, and that there's some amazing people in our industry doing education on that. And so I see that that's going to come next, right? Where the business owner is going to say, hey, how do you use it? And for me, in my business, it's helping me do things faster. It's helping me analyze things that took me a lot longer. I do, competitor analysis, social media audits. I still need to look at the data to come up with a strategy, but things are a lot faster when you implement AI to give you the data, right? I was physically going to find the data, and now I just get the data and then I have to interpret it. So that is something that's going to help me. So I think AI obviously is here to stay. I think that we need a lot more education around it. I compare this to about 10, 15 years ago when our children started having smartphones and all the parents panicked and we didn't know what to do. And I kept saying, just like sex education, we need social media education. So I'm going to say this out loud now, just like we needed social media education, we need AI education. And once we have this new generation of marketers and business owners that understand what AI can do for us, I think everything is kind of calmed down a little bit more and everybody's going to feel safer using it.
We talked about a few different social platforms that you're on with your clients, but if you could only have one social media app on your phone, what would it be?
LinkedIn. I have really doubled down and really the last 2 or 3 years, any new thing that comes out on LinkedIn, I try. Any new, not within the platform, new features, I'm on there. I'm seeing huge return on investment for me to be on LinkedIn on a daily basis. So that would be the one thing on my phone that I would want to have.
And which brand that you're currently following do you think has the best social media presence?
Oh, that's a tough one. I love Inbound. I love what they're doing with their humans first. They really feature people within the community, people that work there, their customers. So I love that. But something that's pretty that I follow, it's called The Pretty Little Marketer. I think that's her name, Sophie or Sophia. I think she's just wonderful. And it's just pretty and pink and it's just wonderful information. She's young, enthusiastic, and I just absolutely like what she's doing. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but those are the two that I like.
What's your go-to emoji when you're crafting posts?
Oh, so for myself, I would say the shrug emoji and the eyes, like I'm looking at you. Those two I love. Clients, it's a little different. There's no right size dot. You know how you do bullets? There's not a good sized bullet emoji. There's a big one and there's a teeny tiny one. So I try to use other things for that. So I often use like a check mark or a plus mark. And then the other one that I use often is I have a hook or a statement, and then I have that point down finger, like there's the link. Instead of saying here's the link or click the link, I use that emoji a lot.
Well, Dorien, thank you so much for your time today. It was great to connect with you and hear some of your tips for marketing leaders around outsourcing social media. Dorien, where's the best place for folks to connect with you if they'd like to reach out?
100% LinkedIn, Dorien Morin-van on LinkedIn. You'll see me with my orange glasses. There's only one person with that name, and I'd love it if you connect with me. That would be great. LinkedIn I'm there every day. So reach out and comment on something or come to my DMs and I'll respond.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for the time today.